Hey there, here's a question on our homework 5. This is one of the harder questions, so let me encourage you to put it off until you've got a good handle on the other questions that are asking about grams and moles and atoms and such. If we look at this question, this is homework 5, or homework 5 question number 32. All right, so we're looking at 32. It asks how many grams of chlorine are present in this sample of barium chloride. I like to think about these types of problems, the equivalences that I need for these types of problems. I like to have them handy. I like to have them written off to the side. If you watched my videos working these problems, you'll see that I put these on the paper each time, and that is 1 mole of X is equal to 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd of those X's. That's one of the equivalences in my toolbox. There is 1 mole of X is equal to the number of grams of X using that molar mass on the periodic table. All right, that's another equivalence. And then the third one, which I get to in later videos because it covers this, is if I'm trying to go between X and Y, I will go between moles of X and moles of Y, and that will be specific for the problem I'm working on. There is no standard equivalence. It just depends on what I'm talking about. There are 4 legs on an elephant, but there are only 2 legs on a human. There are 2 wheels on a bicycle, but there are 4 wheels on a car. So those equivalences depend on the item or the chemical formula that I'm talking about. So I'm going to set up this problem with what I'm starting with and what I'm trying to find. So I'm trying to find grams of chlorine, starting with 3.87 grams of barium chloride. And then I'll set up my times and my ratio sign to get this party started. And the very first thing I'll do, no ifs, no ands, no buts, is I'll put that unit right there. And I need to be careful if I've got an X and a Y, if I've got 2 different chemical species like a chlorine and a barium chloride, I need to be very careful to label my grams and my moles with grams of what, moles of what. So I'm going to grams of barium chloride. If I look up here at my equivalences over here on the right, I can only take grams of X to moles of X. That's got to be my next step. I would love to go to grams of chlorine, but I can't go straight there because I don't have an equivalence. So I'm going to go to moles, and it has to be moles of barium chloride because that's X has to be the same. What numbers go here? For every 1 mole of barium chloride, the number that goes in front of grams is the molar mass from the periodic table. So let me add it up. Sometimes in these problems that's given. In this one it's not. And so let me calculate the molar mass of barium chloride. I'm going to use my periodic table with 2 decimal places. Let me find barium, 137.33. plus 2 chlorines, so 2 times 35.45. All right, so the molar mass of barium chloride is 208.23. And then the grams of barium chloride cancels. All right, I've got ads on my calculator. I really do need to purchase it. All right, so there's the first step. I'm not done because I now have moles of barium chloride that has to cancel. I'm still trying to get to grams of chlorine, so I'll need my next step, which is moles of barium chloride on bottom in order to cancel. Now, I'm trying to get to grams of chlorine. My only path to grams from moles is to go back to grams of barium chloride. That doesn't get me where I'm wanting to go. I could go to molecules of barium chloride, but again, that doesn't get me where I'm wanting to go. Where I want to go is from X to Y, so I'm going to use that equivalence. I need moles of chlorine on top. I'm going to do my mole to mole conversion. Now, what numbers go here? The numbers depend on what I'm looking at. And in 1 formula unit of BaCl2, there are 2 chlorines, like 2 wheels on a bicycle as opposed to 4 wheels on a bicycle. If I were going to barium, I would have a 1-to-1 ratio. And that's based on the formula for barium chloride. So my moles of barium chloride cancels. I'm at moles of chlorine. I'm trying to get to grams of chlorine, so I need another step that has that moles of chlorine unit down here so that it cancels. No ifs, no ands, no buts. Where can I go from here? Keeping in mind I'm trying to get to grams of chlorine. Well, now I can go between moles and grams of chlorine. The X has to be the same. And what numbers go there? Well, in 1 mole of chlorine, it is the molar mass from the periodic table, 35.45 grams. And now my answer will be in grams of chlorine. The path that you use for these problems is always a little bit different, but if you always start with where am I starting, what am I given, where am I going, and then here are my equivalences, figure out the path that gets you there. I hope this helps.